Good afternoon. I am here in Brady's Bend in Armstrong County, and I am looking at the old iron furnaces. I'm actually on my way to ride on the Redbank Trail. I decided to pull off here in Brady's Bend. And these iron furnaces are located at the ball field. And there's a common theme with old iron furnaces. They are always along a hillside. And later on, I will look up the history of these iron furnaces. It's a nice fall-like day at the end of August, but don't get used to it because things are going to heat up in time for Labor Day weekend. The temperatures are forecasted to be in the low 90s on Labor Day. And just because the calendar says September doesn't mean you can't, do water sports or dress like summer. If it's hot, do it. Take that kayak out, go swimming. I'm going to leave here and make my way up to the Redbank Trail, and I will be riding through the Climax Tunnel to New Bethlehem. So join in for another video of history, scenery, and fun. I looked up the history after I got off work, and here is what I found. The furnace was in operation from 1839 to 1872. The furnace was operated by the Great Western Iron Company. In 1843, the furnace ceased operations due to lack of funding. The furnace was fired back up in 1844. A few of the previous owners were able to purchase the bankrupt company. By the 1870s, the demand for iron rails declined. Railroads wanted steel rails due to the increase in locomotive traffic. Okay, while I'm up here, I'm going to be driving on Old Route 861. 861 is the road that leads from Reimersburg to New Bethlehem. If you look on Google Maps, if you see like a little road branching off from the main road and then connecting again to the main road, that's usually an old route. And in the 50s and 1960s, a lot of these roads were bypassed due to increase in traffic. So this is Old Route 861. Man, a little pit stop on the way to the Climax Tunnel. The sign says 861 and Old Route 861. Back on 861 now. And this is just east of Reimersburg. My next stop is the St. Charles Refractory. These abandoned ruins are located along the Redbank Trail. Clay bricks were made at this location. From 1879 to 1965, workers mined the clay from along the creek. According to the marker on the location, more than 60 tons of clay was used. The Clarion Fire Brick Company opened in 1900. The clay bricks manufactured at this site were used in steel mills all across the Western Hemisphere. 2 shifts of 50 men were employed at this site. The village of St. Charles was a company town. A post office, school, church, company store, and homes were included in the town. St. Charles was typical of company towns of the day. Finally approaching the village of Climax, and this is after a few pit stops. I had to stop and see the Brady Iron Furnaces, Old Route 861, and the St. Charles Refractory. So we are almost at the trailhead. After this really sharp bend. And right there, that's a bed and breakfast. I think it's the Hunter's Moon Lodge. Abandoned structure up on the hillside. And we are going to cross Redbank Creek. And this bridge is one lane, so I'm going to make sure there's no traffic, and I'm just going to go ahead and yield. We want to yield to oncoming traffic. Finally, I'm at the trailhead for the Redbank Trail, and this is at the Climax Tunnel. My plan today is to ride through the Climax Tunnel, check out the coke ovens, check out the town of New Bethlehem, and finally check out the restored turntable, which is a little past the New Bethlehem area. Just past the Climax Tunnel, there is a picnic table and a bench to relax. Really can't see any views of the Redbank Creek because of the brush, but whenever the leaves are off the trees, you get a nice view of the bridge and the creek. You know that there was a factory built in 1872 on the Armstrong side of the Redbank Creek. It produced 8,000 bricks a day, quote. And did you know that this area contributed to the space program? Quote, in 1959, the plant was purchased by A.P. Green Refractories of Missouri, which produced materials for the lining of the rocket launch pad at Florida's Cape Canaveral in the 1960s, quote. So this area did contribute to the space program. It looks like they had their own band. And here's an old picture of the village of Climax. And at the lower right of the photo, right where my finger's pointing, was the Climax brick plant number 2 on the Clarion side of the Redbank Creek. I'm at the mouth of the Climax Tunnel. This tunnel is only around 600 feet long, so you can go through it without a strong flashlight. The light on your phone will do its job. However, if you're riding through the Kennerdell or Rockland Tunnel, you need a strong flashlight. Because those tunnels are, I think Rockland is 2,800 feet and Kennerdell is 3,300 feet. And I rode through both of them, and you definitely need a strong light. And according to the marker that's here, this tunnel opened up on the first day of May, 1877. May 1st is my birthday. So 100 years later, I was born on May 1st, 1977. That's something. And this tunnel opened back up to the public in summer of 2018. Looks like at one time there was a house that probably sat on this location, and it was built for the foreman of the low-grade division in 1876 at a cost of $300 $13.50, quote. Today that wouldn't even cover a couple pieces of lumber. Imagine building a house for $300. So I'm gonna guess that the house price sat back here. This trail is very quiet. You don't hear the hum of traffic. All you hear are the birds tweeting and the rapids flowing. Right down to the trees is Redbank Creek. And we are at mile marker 18. Here's a nice view of Redbank Creek. And right now the views of the creek are obscured by leaves. And like I said earlier in my video, there is a lot of history along this trail. Down to the woods are the coke ovens. And there's a marker. And I wouldn't go poking around in them because copperheads make their home and you don't want to get struck by them. You do not want to get bit by a copperhead. They are venomous. The bite hurts, but they are rarely fatal. So I'm just gonna view these from the comfort of the trail. They almost look like cake. And these coke ovens were in operation between 1870 and 1890. Quote, coal was brought in from local mines up to 3 miles away and baked in these ovens to create coke. Water from the Redbank Creek was used to wash the coal before baking and coal the ovens afterwards, quote. Quote, coke is a coal that is distilled by burning off tars, oils, and gases to create an almost pure form of carbon. The remaining material burns hot enough to melt iron ore. If you look close enough, you might just find a piece or two, quote. And here's a picture. I'm not going to go down and look for coke. I'm just going to go ahead and zoom in. So back then, the men worked 12-hour days, and the temperatures of these ovens got as high as 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm not going to complain about my job. Ovens are at mile marker 19. Also, there's a little path that goes down to a footbridge, and I'm going to go ahead and take a look. This trail is a little bit rough, so just use caution, especially whenever it's wet. Warning, 6-foot 3-inch clearance, no more than 3 people or 600 pounds on bridge at one time. And here you can get a bird's eye view of the stone culvert. I'm just going to zoom in on the keystone. I really can't make out what it says. So the trail is on top of this historic bridge. Here are more remnants of industry. And this little trail just takes you back up to the Redbank Trail. And there are benches and picnic tables all along the trail. The name that runs under this bridge is Long Run. I'm telling you, there is so much history along this trail. And it's nice because they have markers. New Bethlehem Tile Company, distinctive tile made here, quote. So according to the marker, the Canton Tile Hollow Brick Company in Ohio came and established a plant here in 1898 on the White Farm, quote. And here's an old picture. It's kind of hard to see with the sun. But you have to remember, 100 years ago, there were no trees or growth here because it was all logged in order to construct homes and buildings. So the hillsides were very bare. Because Pennsylvania was once forested. They said that a squirrel can go from Philadelphia to Lake Erie without ever touching the ground. West of New Bethlehem, we come to a fork in the trail. You want to go left. Right is just a spur trail that takes you to a parking area. Almost in New Bethlehem. I decided to check out the spur trail, and there's a beautiful railroad trestle. I'm going to get a closer look, and of course, ride over it. Trail Volunteer Bridge, also known as the Bostonian Bridge Crossing, Redbank Creek. Quote, this bridge is named in honor of all the volunteers who donated time, money, and effort to deck and rail all of the trail's many bridges and who worked to improve and maintain the Redbank Valley trails. Special thanks go to the Trail Volunteer Fund of the Pittsburgh Foundation, who supports our volunteers with grants for materials and helps makes their work possible. Quote, "Thank you. I mean this from the bottom of my heart, but thank you to all the volunteers." Views from this bridge are spectacular, so I highly recommend taking a couple minutes and checking it out. Across the Redbank Creek is the village of South Bethlehem. As you can see, these are all wood frame homes, and they were probably where the working class lived. And right on that log is chicken of the woods. Some people saute it and eat it as a snack, but I'm not real sure about that. And it's probably because I don't like mushrooms. Yeah, here's a close look at chicken of the woods. At mile marker 20, there's little gnomes on the rock. Oh, these are so cute. It's like a little gnome garden. There's a gnome garden on the Butler Freeport Trail in Herman, right across from derailers. And this is right outside of New Bethlehem. Across the creek, this looks like an interesting building. It's definitely abandoned. Roof is caving in, so it won't be long before it's demolished. We're at mile marker 20 and we are entering the town of New Bethlehem. And these sculptures are all along the trail. They're so much fun to look at, and thank you whoever took the time out to make these sculptures. The municipal building, the day on top says 1903. And we're going to check out the business district. It's different. Looks like a bank drive-through in the rear of a church. Here is downtown New Bethlehem. Has a nice business district, a lot of historic buildings. And that's not a church, that's a bank. My fault. So if I said church earlier, I'm sorry. Bethlehem is nestled on the banks of the Redbank Creek. The Redbank Creek serves as a natural border between Clarion and Armstrong County. So the town was incorporated in 1853. Quote, the town was first known as Gumtown and was incorporated as a borough in 1853. So it's centrally located on routes 28 and 66 between 3 hospitals and county seats, Clarion, Brookville, and Katanning. Quote. I'm going to call this sculpture the Three Bears, obviously. Building must be an art gallery. I can see it painted in the windows, and it was built in 1915. So this was a brewery in 1915. Now it's a peanut butter factory. And every year New Bethlehem has a peanut butter festival. You can smell the peanut butter. It smells so good. I could go for peanut butter and bananas right now. A lot of people say that's an odd combo, but I like it. Peanut butter and banana sandwich. And I just love the combination. I first had it in 4th grade. So beer, milk, or peanut butter. 1965, Smucker's has been roasting peanuts for peanut butter. It smells so good. Here's an old relic from the railroad. Just finished learning about the peanut butter factory, and I'm off to look for the turntable. The section of the trail in New Bethlehem is very noisy because you have Route 28, which is the main artery through town. And again, an old sign. And the last train rolled through here in November of 2007. So as the last train was rolling through, crews weren't too far behind removing railroad ties and the tracks. I point out just past New Bethlehem, there's a downward slope in the trail. And it looks like there was a bridge at one time, but it must have been removed. That was a hard pumping crossing on Route 28. There's even a sign that says high volume crossing. My advice is whenever you do crossings, dismount your bike, that means get off it, and walk your bike across. That's what I did whenever I was in Florida. I rode in Cocoa Beach, Florida, and whenever the light changed to cross the A1A, I walked across. Because that road is crazy. Here's a nice scenic view of Redbank Creek. This bridge is the Justin Burkett Memorial Bridge. Quote, the Justin Burkett Memorial Bridge is named in memory of Cheryl and Kenneth Burkett's son, who was tragically lost his life at a young age. Justin worked on archaeological digs with his father, historian Kenneth Burkett, in the historic Fish Basket Indian settlement area near Town Run. The Fish Basket State Historical Marker along Route 28 was Justin's Boy Scout Eagle project in 1997. Quote. Thank you for this fine young man for building this bridge. Here's a look at it. And one of the many streams that flow into Redbank Creek. Oh, this is interesting. Why fish basket? Quote, archaeological excavations were conducted between 1976 and 2009 by historian Kevin Burkett, who provided photos and information. The excavations included Fish Basket North, and Jericho. These sites are near this location along Redbank Creek. They have been critical in identifying a new phase of the late woodland period for western Pennsylvania. More information is available at the Jefferson County History Center in Brookville, PA. Quote. So there's pottery that was found. And you can go ahead and pause this video so you can read this. So just take a moment and pause it. Wow, that's so interesting. And there's a map of the trail. Shows I am right here between Fairmount and Hawthorne. So I'm just east of New Bethlehem. Interesting that Shawnee Village once stood in this area. This section of the trail runs parallel with Route 28. Made to the turntable. And there's even a sculpture inside the middle of the turntable. It's an owl. That is cute. There is another turntable that's restored, and it's in Phillipston along the Armstrong Trail. It's part of the 2-mile heritage area, which includes the turntable, the Brady Tunnel, a foundation, and the cooling tower. And that is worth checking out. Some remnants of days gone by. This is actually going to be my stopping point. And I'm just going to film the marker so you can pause it and read it at your own leisure. Just too much for me to read in this video. And I will tell you it's at mile marker 22.95. And here's something interesting. In January 1965, a train with 17 cars loaded with coal derailed between here and the former site of the Hawthorne Railroad Station. But this trail is just loaded with history and beauty. Made it to the borough of Hawthorne. It's time for me to turn around and head back to Climax. So I rode about 6 miles, so this would be about a 12-mile ride. Everybody, I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.